Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Sandra Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today, as we steamroll into over 120 episodes of the show, we're very proud to have somebody. I've been wanting to have him on the show actually for a number of years. He's a bit of a gadabout. He's a bit of a pimple. And I know he's actually in a different country today. He's going to explain in a second. Mr. Steve Suarez, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Andrew? And happy to join you and your audience.
No, it's fantastic. I remember actually a few years ago when you were at that other organisation, which we will probably mention at some point. And I remember we did a session with you. I think it was Rita as well. You and Rita, and it was like I felt like I was going into the metaverse because it was like you're in this kind of like this. You're in this kind of like it was a Zoom call, but it was like the background was like your Jones Technicolor Dreamcoat. Remember that? It was like very impressive. But you're not there. You're not there now, so it's different.
Exactly. My physical me, yeah. I mean, we're kind of still in the metaverse. We're in a virtual world right now where you're calling in from one country, I'm calling in from a country pretty far away, and we're able to connect. And then our viewers or your viewers are in there watching us virtually. So
yeah, but there's nothing like being in person, though. There's nothing like being in person. So now that I know you've moved over there, you say, I'm going to come and find you. And we're going to sit cocktails on the beach and, just, put our feet up and then do all these deals. Yeah, that's what
I like the way you think, Andrew. I like the way you think.
So go on, please tell the audience. I saw something on LinkedIn recently. You made a big declaration.
I did.
I thought, ooh, I've got to get him on the show and find out more.
Yeah, exactly. So we actually moved offices. Well, we have an office now in Dubai. And because it's such an important place for us, I personally have moved over here with my wife.
Okay.
And we incorporated in the DIFC. And I guess, Andrew, you got first dibs to kind of hear the news. I incorporated about 2 hours ago. So I am I'm officially part of the DIFC, which is kind of the premier place to incorporate here. I'm not getting any commission for it to advertise to them, but I'm based in the AI campus, and a lot of companies that are kind of kicking off in AI. Actually, I'm one of the first quantum
ups
with them. Yeah. So obviously, I don't have a quantum hardware company.
No.
I'm part of those companies, but I'm doing more quantum consulting and education. So they're very excited to have me there as one of the first to be able to do that. And so, yeah, I've come here. I think there's a lot of opportunity in this region. When you talk about innovation, Andrew, it's not something where you need to invest and you need to fund. And I see that this region at this moment in time is doing a lot of investment, a lot of funding. So if you really want to go where innovation is, you go where it's properly supported, and there's plenty of money to help you do that. And I think I'm in the right place to do that.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you for giving me this exclusive then. I mean, that's an exciting day, isn't it, that? Here we go, 24th of March, 2025.
You got it.
Steve creates the beach club. Steve Suarez Beach Club.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly right.
The AI Beach Club. Where's the AI area? Is it down by the marina there or something? Whereabouts is the center?
No. It's downtown. It's pretty much downtown. It's 1 or 2 stops from the Burj Khalifa. That's where I am right now in downtown.
Okay.
And yeah, it's very central, and a lot of companies are based there, so it's a good place to be.
No, the reason I mentioned was because when I was there recently, on the way to the marina, you have kind of like you've got like IBM and Oracle and Microsoft, some of the the big stalwarts. So they've obviously created a different area for the AI kind of area. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, there's along that whole corridor, you have like Silicon Beach, you have Internet City.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's probably Internet City. That's right. Yeah.
Internet City is exactly what you're talking about. I was just there the other night visiting my friend from Deloitte, and he lives over by there. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of growth in this, and just excited to be part of it.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, 5 years ago, it's interesting. So 5 years ago, I was doing some work with supporting the CEO of a prop tech company based out of Prague, and we actually got sponsored by the DIT, Department of International Trade. We actually went on a UK government visit to Sharjah, and obviously Dubai and Abu Dhabi as well. It was like all the kind of UAE, and we met all the Emirati. An interesting thing. I mean, this is like 2019, 2020. 2019 actually it was. they were talking about how they wanted to create exactly what you're talking about now, which I presume you'll explain a little bit more about it, is really put themselves on the map for technology and AI. And, I mean, they use the phrase, we want to create another Facebook. I'm not sure that would be the right strategy, but, I'm just, the kind of the context of creating a unicorn, I suppose, or something that's significant in that region. So it sounds like what they're trying to do now is actually make that happen. Is that what you're taking it as well?
Absolutely. And I think that, the vision of what they're trying to do is bring in new technology, things around sustainability. I think they understand that, oil and gas is producing now, but eventually they're going to have to diversify. And I think that they are, and they're looking for different revenue streams and ways that this could be a vibrant, or continue to be a vibrant city. And I want to be careful. I don't want to be speaking on behalf of Dubai or UAE, because this is me on day 6, and it's not like I know all, but I see the opportunity, and I think that there's a lot of the country has a great strategy around building sustainable cities, around using AI and technology, and they have the funding. So having that mix, and if I could provide kind of the resource, the knowledge, also the connectivity, right? Because I feel like I'm very well connected between the US, the UK, Europe, and Asia based on kind of my history. So it is a big world, but I feel like I can help small in it a little bit and get people working together. And keep in mind,
Yeah.
I am global. So what I do is global. I don't just work in Denmark.
No, I mean, I think that's the thing that I always saw with you is that you're like an Uber connector. Yeah. And obviously with the stuff that you did with the, I suppose, Hong Kong, Shanghai Banking Corporation,
Yeah.
short name,
HSBC.
and the area that you were in, because you're in regulatory, but you're also in innovation. Basically, you were in global innovation for HSBC, weren't you? Which is, I mean, what a fantastic.
Oxymoron. It was an oxymoron.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was a HSBC customer for a long time, but obviously, there's also those things about some things that are challenges in banks as well. It takes a long time to do and to change. It's transactional. It's difficult. It's interesting. I mean, so what was? I mean, we spoke about this a while ago. What was the trigger? What was the trigger? What was the kind of like? Did you wake up this morning screaming, or kind of like, or did this light bulb come on and say, "I need to do Horizon"? What was which is your business now? What is there was a particular condition or situation that happened that created you to jump into this slubby swimming pool?
Yeah, well, so it was a combination of things. I wouldn't say it was just one trigger. I would say I was coming at HSBC, had a fabulous career there, met some amazing people. But I think where I was personally, it was probably time for me to move on and do different things. And I think I did a lot of things with the bank I'm very proud of, a lot of great things that I still see kind of the fruit of the labor coming out. I had a great team. And so I was really proud of kind of what had been done. But kind of at my age, I was thinking I've got a lot more years behind me than I do ahead of me. And so if I always had a dream of kind of doing entrepreneurship, and the timing was just right. There was doing reorgs, there were making some changes, and I had opportunities to say, all right, I'm going to shift to do something else. But I thought, you know what? No, I think the time is right. And so what I decided to do was I had about 6 months of garden leave. During that 6 months, I decided to go back to school. So I had a lifelong dream, Andrew, of studying at a Harvard Business School. And I was thinking, you know what? Better late than never. And so I went back, met amazing amount of fantastic people. I was part of a special program called the Advanced Management Program, which is their top tier education. And once you're done with that, after a couple months, you go on campus, you're living campus life and all that. It's like you're going back to school. You actually become an alumni of Harvard Business School. And I was really interested in that. I always valued kind of their case method of teaching. So between the network, what they taught, getting that experience to say, hey, I'm on the Harvard campus and, being in the dorms for a couple months, it was just fantastic. During there, I met amazing professors. So professors that are really well known, renowned, have books on all this stuff. And it was just kind of funny that I'm sitting in the classes with these professors. And as I'm going there and kind of saying, all right, I've decided to leave the bank. I'm going to go and I've got other choices. I can be an executive at another place and do something, which is, well, I wouldn't say easier, but it's easy for me to go and try to find another job
So the
somewhere.
transition's easier, isn't it? The transition would be
Yeah,
easier.
it's job security and stuff like that. Or I can kind of do what I've always wanted to do is kind of start my own business and grow something that belongs to me. And the guys at Harvard made me feel so confident in myself and gave me the, like that push and like, you don't want to go do that. This is what you want to go do. Well, and you have to come up with a personal case to kind of graduate. And I came up with a personal case, and my personal case was HorizonX. And I said, I want to start a company that does X, Y, and Z, da, da, da. And it's funny, your group gets to pick one person in the group to speak in front of the class. And my group was smart enough to say, hey, we need to give Steve some publicity here in his new company. So I got selected. At first, I wasn't happy about it, Andrew. I was like, I don't want to get in front of all these
Well, you're
executives.
anxious. You're a bit anxious and a bit of
Yeah,
anxiety.
yeah. Because you're putting your heart and your soul out there, and you're exposing yourself and talking about this new company you want to create. And the only thing, it's a piece of paper and an idea you have on your head. And so I got up there, presented. I had one guy, actually, funny enough, a guy from Mitsubishi said, Steve, I loved your presentation. I'm going to be your first customer. And then another guy right behind him saying, Steve, I want to be your first customer. So I had about 3 people right
They
after
were
I.
fighting over you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, so what
Well,
happened?
that's his, that's that. I mean, just to reflect on that, just to celebrate success. That is legendary. I mean, like being in that group at Harvard and actually giving birth to your new idea. That's fantastic, brilliant.
It's funny. I've got a LinkedIn post where they took a picture of me in front of the class and you could see Horizon X in the background and I'm actually presenting it. And so
So
that was
you're on brand. You're on brand. You
that's it.
should have. You see, like if you're a startup CEO now, you're supposed to have like a hoodie with like
Yeah, yeah.
all the swag on it and stuff like that. Are you?
Remember, I'm in Dubai. I'm in Dubai.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
but, uh, but no, and I think what happened is the professors gave me the confidence. My teammates gave me the confidence. People wanted to. So when I came out with this huge high, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to make it. I'm going to, it's going to be a killing." And then reality set in about being an entrepreneur and kind of what happens. And I'm glad that happened because it gave me the confidence to do it.
It gave you the kind of kick up the butt to actually, rather than
That
procrastinating, actually do something about it. Yeah.
it's a lot easier for me to just put my resume out there and say, "Hey, you want me? Come and get me." Versus, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and build and sell business." And so I learned a lot through this process. Right now, I'm a lot in bookkeeping, finance. I'm my own CFO. I'm my own marketing agent. I'm my own branding person. Sales, oh my God, I've learned,
Well,
sales
you
and
see,
good.
I mean, with respect, you see, now you're on the other side of the table now, aren't you? If you think about all the pictures you've had maybe on the receiving end of, I
That's
mean,
it.
but it's a good experience because I mean, a bit like when I was at Tesco, I was on the receiving end of all these people trying to work with me, I was, the bank or at the mobile stuff. And it's fascinating when you go on the other side, you suddenly really learn your stuff then.
Yeah, yeah. But it's good because then you get to think, what would I have wanted people to tell me to convince me? So I think the other part of me is I've got the confidence and I've kind of seen the movie. So I'm less scared about saying, oh, will they go for me or whatever. Now you get to the point to say, I can add real value and I could make a real difference. And I know I can. And so people feel that, they get that sense. And then I always like seeing my clients just like, wow, Steve, that was fantastic. You really changed and took us to a whole nother level. And that happens. And it's actually very satisfying.
But so, I mean, some of the topics you work on, you touched on one a bit earlier, just briefly, but, this whole quantum thing. I mean, I've seen a lot of press around it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a lot of kind of, I suppose I see a bit of, oh, our chip's bigger than your chip, faster than your chip. How big is mine? Blah blah blah. It seems to
Yeah,
go on with some
exactly.
of the tech titans. What's your honest opinion on where we are with that? As a kind of a maturity curve. Any thoughts on that?
I'm excited that there are so many companies out there pitching and could be overhyping and all this other stuff. And because people are moving in the right direction, I think quantum is a technology we need. that's going to make exponential impacts in certain areas, not in everything, right? So I'm excited that talented people are getting involved in this industry and finding creative ways, because it is a game changer technology. I think we're skimming the beginnings of this. And so my part of this, Andrew, is I wanted to be the kind of the front door to educate people first of what it is, what it isn't, where your opportunities, where the threats, how do you structure yourself now, what you should be investing in now, so you don't overinvest now, but you don't underinvest either. The difference between quantum and AI is that we all have access to AI. Any of us can go out there and get access and play around. With quantum, it's going to be very different. With quantum, there's going to be limited machines. There'll be limited people to know how to use those machines. And the people that will have that access will have an advantage that'll just, you don't want to become second in this game. And so part of me is trying to help organizations go through that process, because that other bank you were talking about that I was part of, I got the history and we did the investment, and I got the battle scars to see what works and what doesn't work. I'm using that experience and what I learned there to help other organizations. And so,
which is incredibly valuable, because you've actually walked the path already inside a large organization who obviously was obviously trying to do some groundbreaking work there, and obviously will continue to do that. There's stuff like, I saw the stuff with IBM you were doing when you were at HSBC. It looked pretty. And IBM, IBM seems to have got their mojo back. I don't know if you've got the same view.
Yeah, exactly.
A bit like Austin Powers. But there's obviously now other competitors coming on the scene as well now, and I don't know what, I presume NVIDIA would be part of that kind of crew as well. Is that right?
I think they will be, and I think Google, with Sycamore, and then Microsoft with their new announcement. And the funny thing is, the reason I want to educate people is that all of these companies are doing it differently. They're all using different technologies, and nobody knows who's going to win. So some are using neutral atoms, some are using superconducting like IBM, some are using photonics, some are using even diamonds, and they're using vacancies in diamonds, that there's vacuums in there, manipulating atoms and sending in late. Yeah. No, but the funny thing is, exactly. Well, the funny thing is, you're starting to see a lot of movies now incorporate quantum into the kind of narrative. So, the way I see quantum is like the early days of the internet. If you're Amazon and you're like, hey, I'm here, I'm going to use the internet to distribute things, people are like, you're way too early, and you're not going to be successful. But when you're in early and you start learning and you learn what works, and it's about pivoting, I think that's going to be key. And I think it's going to be there's going to be new companies coming out of this that we're going to hear, like the Amazons, the Googles, the eBays, the PayPals, all these companies that either don't exist today or they're existing and nobody really knows about them. We're going to be talking about them in the next 10 years. Just like, oh yeah, of course, Google, Amazon, eBay. But right now.
But it does, just to jump in a second, but it does, I don't know about you, but I do feel like it's about time we had another wave of, because if you think about, with the discontinuity from the dot-com boom and bust, and then it birthed all those companies 20 years ago, and it does feel like that time, doesn't it, where it's about time where we actually got a new wave of, companies that really did well and actually moved the humanity forward and moved technology forward at the same time. Do you feel that as well?
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. We're seeing it in AI. I think we'll see it in quantum. I think the combination between quantum and AI I think AI is going to help quantum. And then eventually, maybe quantum will help AI, and kind of that combination of doing different things. So I think it's exciting times. And Andrew, I wouldn't, being in an innovation, my job's always to look ahead, right? And so if I were focused on today, I would focus on the immediate technologies that are there, which is kind of what they call Horizon 1. Then there's the Horizon 2 technologies that exist in the world, but they're not prevalent in all the organizations. I would say AI, even though it does exist and people know about it, it's not really truly being used as well as it can be. And that's kind of my, the Horizon 2. And then the Horizon 3 is the disruptive stuff, the stuff that doesn't exist that we're creating, which I play in, but I play in all three of those horizons, hence the name HorizonX.
For the people who are not obviously not as initiated into quantum like you are, I mean, what's the big gains or benefits? What's the comparison about the current world to the quantum world? Is there any stats you could share that would help the audience kind of understand that and get some context on it?
I mean, listen, you could either try to explain quantum and get it wrong, or you can kind of give analogies and have people understand kind of the magnitude of it, right? So the way a normal classical computer works is in bits and bytes, like so. So it's either 0 or 1, and that's how computer language understands. In quantum, there's a thing called a qubit, and it's in both states at the same time. So I'll give you an analogy why that's so important. In a classical computer, if you think about a very big, complicated maze, a classical computer to solve that maze would go through a path, realize it's wrong, come back out, go through another path, and it's very sequential in nature. And then it'll eventually try all the paths until it finds the right path. Obviously, the bigger the maze, the longer it's going to take. Because quantum is all instantaneous, it goes through every single path at once, gets to the right path, and then it gets to.
Also, it's a bit like a massive parallelization of the kind of options and pathways.
And it gets to the right decision and the right answer immediately but it only works for certain types of use cases. And some of these, funny enough, Andrew, are getting proven out, and some are even getting disproven. So it's still early days, but here are the areas that quantum is promising to have advantage or eventually. So anything around optimization is key. Simulation. So if you're simulating, so think about simulating chemical reactions and stuff like that. And then security or communications, right? And then, this whole machine learning and quantum machine learning, that type stuff. So the great thing about having really creative, intelligent people getting into this is they're using this technology and finding ways to actually make things better. But at the same time, the classical guys are seeing how these problems are getting solved. And they're like, oh, I can do it better. So now the classical guys are kind of sharpening their pencils, saying they're building better algorithms because now they can say, oh, I can do it with the technology that I have. And they're actually doing better. So I would say quantum is pushing classical to get better and more efficient. But it also, once these computers get better and these hardware companies get better, that means that the promise of quantum advantage or commercialization is getting closer and closer.
That's interesting. So the thing many decades ago when we were young boys, when we had shorts on, basically. So what I used to remember when I was back at GE was we used to have to design systems, but they had hardware constraints. Yeah, you had to design for constraints. What you kind of say now is there isn't really a constraint because if you're on quantum, because if they got the right hardware and the right capability, you can basically got infinite combinations you can actually execute. Is that the different world?
Yeah, no. So you can start building algorithms that will work and they're simulated and you can start seeing some benefit. But once the quantum computers catch up, you can use those same algorithms to start getting that quadratic or exponential benefit. And so you're absolutely right. And it's funny, I think your comment or your analogy reminds me of the dome that was built in Florence, and the guy that built it, he wanted to build this big dome and they didn't have the technology at that time to build it, but he built it anyway, knowing that in a few years they would find a way to get that technology built.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's interesting. Good little circle back actually, because one of my board members at Praxi is a guy called Adoso Adara, and he was actually at Tuunia in Saudi Arabia. He was the chief data and privacy officer, analytics officer there, and we had a roast, the insurance data roast event like a couple of weeks ago, where we're basically talking about when algos go wild, how do you manage claims, the whole thing about underwriters versus data scientists, blah blah blah. And what he talked about, interestingly, talking about Saudi Arabia and the UAE, was about the states around that kind of that region, was that they've got massive ambition but actually there is a few constraints. So there's still the maturity of things that you would say that you got in the US or maybe in Western Europe, or I don't know less about maybe slightly maybe applicable in Asia as well. They're still finding the feet on a number of areas, which I suppose is also kind of an exciting place to be then, isn't it? Because all that experience you've got from what you've done in other regions, you can then bring there, and obviously because they've got the ambition and the funding, it then becomes a really interesting cauldron of melting pot of possibility, I suppose.
And that's what excites me about this. Yeah, I think it's bringing different people with the different skill sets that can add. And I feel like my experience could be very valuable in the region to do some big things. And I want to have impact. So it's got to be big things that I'm able to have. If not, I could have stayed put and, done what I needed to do based on where I was, or gone back to the States. But it's a learning opportunity. I think they want to do some big things, and I'm hoping to be part of it.
Would you say that it's Dubai, or is it Abu Dhabi, or is it both, or is it just the UAE in general? I suppose you're still trying to work that out, I presume.
I think I'm still trying to work that out. I think I'm going to be agnostic. I'm not picking Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia. I mean, I've been asked to do stuff in Qatar. I've been asked to do. I had a client ask, fly me out to Bahrain to look at a bank out there in Saudi Arabia. I think the whole region, there's this sense of possibility that is infectious, and being out here with that same kind of innovation. And I guess it doesn't hurt that I ran innovation at a big bank and have that title with me. And so they're like, we want to hear kind of from your experiences. And so it's good. And, I think I've seen things succeed, and I've seen how things could fail, and making sure you got the right dynamics. And it's more than just that. You also have to understand the culture. And I think from my end, I'm understanding the culture here and what works. So what might work in London may not work completely here. Same thing, I learned when I was in Paris, it was the same thing. I came over from the US, tried to apply everything I knew in the US. And in France, the culture was very different. So I couldn't apply that. And then I moved to the UK, and we spoke the same language, but some of the stuff was miles apart on how we got things done. So it's a great learning experience, and this is just another learning experience for me and my family.
So HorizonX is mainly doing kind of strategic work with these different companies, and I know you're working with some other, like the Mitsubishi example. You said you're kind of helping them on their, I presume their, I suppose, horizon plan. Is that's kind of idea around that? I know the Mitsubishi guys from when I was at SAP. I used to look after Mitsubishi in Europe. So we had the semiconductors business, we had the electric, the Mitsubishi Electric. I know that was Mitsubishi actually. Not was it Mitsubishi you're working at?
Mitsubishi Corporation. Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, that's one. Listen, I've got clients all around the world. I got a central bank of central banks in Latin America. I've got, a big company in Sweden that I'm doing due diligence work for, and they want to purchase some companies in Europe and Germany. I've got, the good thing about it is I've got customers pretty much all around the world.
You've got lots of flags point.
Yeah, exactly.
Originally, were you from them? Which part of the US were you born in?
So I was born in New Jersey. My parents are Colombian.
Okay.
I was born in New Jersey, moved around a lot, Houston, New Orleans. I was in Miami, joined the military. So I was in Kansas and Missouri, went back, went to Orlando, Tampa, Chicago. And so I actually joined the bank when I was in Tampa. They moved me to Chicago, and then to Paris, and then to London. And I made the big move out here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have to get some T-shirts printed up.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that we talked about on the G&T sessions is obviously, I mean, it sounds like you've got an interesting trajectory of stuff you've done. But I mean, one of the things also we talk about is we talk about peaks and valleys. So obviously, that requires people to kind of open up a little bit. I mean, in terms of peaks and valleys, I know you've had a lot of peaks. What would be some valleys you would want to share today that kind of would help people recalibrate and get the context of, looking at you and seeing the success you've had, but also everybody goes through those kind of valleys as well. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Listen, it's normal, and, not everything's going to work for everybody. And you actually learn more from things that didn't work out. And so, and sometimes you come into things, you want to partner up with people. People don't respond. People tell you things like, "Oh, Steve, when you go off and do this, I'll be right there. I'll be, and they don't show up. So you get disappointed. Even like hiring people, right? You might want to hire people, you got good expectations, and then you don't hire the right people. And that might be, and then, or you got clients that, Steve, we're going to sign this big multi-million-dollar contract, and you're okay. We'll do it next week. We'll do it next week, and then you find out they signed with a competitor. And obviously, the competitor is one of these big firms, so you would think, okay, well, I feel honored that I'm playing in that game, but then you lose out, right? And so I think for me, when I win, I feel good, really good when I win big contracts. When I lose, it hurts, and kind of learn the way, and you can get demoralized easily. And I could tell you that if I didn't have the backing that I did with my friends, my family, even Harvard professors and people that want to see me succeed, I could see how it's a hard life. And being an entrepreneur, while I think everybody says it's fantastic and it's for everybody, I don't know that it always is. I think there's a certain knack. If you really want it, it is. But you're going to have to really want it, because you will have times, to those valleys that you're talking about, you're like, why did I do this? Everything's working against me, da, da, da. And it's only natural. And so the important part is being resilient, pulling yourself out of that. And then tomorrow waking up saying, okay, today's a new day. Let me go back at it. And you're going back at it. There's been times where I lost a client. So I'll tell you a funny story. And it just happened to me this year. Is like, I'm like, it's New Year's. I'm celebrating New Year's. I'm thinking this year is going to be a killer year. I'm already killing it. Even before I'm starting the year, I've already got these contracts signed up. I'm doing really well, blah, blah, blah. The first 2 weeks of the year, 3 of my clients have a major restructure, and my sponsor gets let go or moved to another country. And those were huge contracts for me. And so here I'm thinking I'm banking all this plus every other, doing some other stuff and doing some really interesting stuff. And I lose 3 clients right there. Bang, a big portion of kind of my income. And I'm like feeling sorry for myself and whatever, but you got to kind of get up and get going. And then a week later, another client comes and takes more than those 3 clients combined and provides, a big contract for me. If I were to just kind of give up, it is a roller coaster, and you got to be okay. It's like when you're on an airplane and that plane like falls down and you feel it in your stomach. That's part of the ride. So you got to be in there
you just have the sick bag close by.
Exactly right.
No,
have good people around you, because I could tell you, I'm very fortunate. I've got a very supportive wife. I've got my kids that have this unbelievable trust in everything I do. And so the other part of it, Andrew, and they're probably, if they hear this, it'll be interesting. The other part is I'm a role model for them. So if I'm starting out, I get out there and I start a business, and it's just like things don't go well or whatever, then that's like, oh yeah, my dad tried that and it didn't work out. So part of me is like, I want to show them that it can work out and it's going to work out, because they're definitely looking at me, and every time they call me, instead of saying, hey dad, how are you feeling, how's everything going, they're like, hey dad, how's the business going? Because they know that but it's not because they just care about the business, but they know that they want to see me succeed. And so they take a lot of pride in seeing that happen. And so I was in Paris when we were launching the International Year of Quantum as part of that, and my son had called me, and I had launched a new venture with the Quantum Insider guys called the Quantum Index, where we're indexing how well industries in automotive, financial services
are adopting it.
Yeah, and pharmaceuticals is coming out next. And so as soon as I launched that, it was a big hit. A lot of people started calling me. And then my son's like, hey, dad, everybody's calling me, asking me questions on how did you do the metrics here and whatever. And I could tell he was excited about it. And that actually brought a lot of joy to kind of hear that, he feels, even though he's not part of it, he's working at another quantum computing company himself. he feels kind of attached to it and like, part of that. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I suppose that's the thing, is it because the world now, people can watch you in public, can't they? They can see what you're doing,
Yeah.
and they can follow you. Yes, well, follow your path. But it's great. It's great that your family's showing that interest and that support. It's yeah. I mean, how long have you? I mean, you're in HSBC 20 odd years, over 20 years, I think, just over 20
20
years.
years. Yeah, 20 years. 19.9 something.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? I see. You didn't get the gold half hunter watch,
No, it's okay.
but you've been out there in your entrepreneurial journey for just over a year now. Is that right?
Yeah, 18 months, a little bit over 18 months. Yeah.
So it's my 17th year this year.
Wow. So you
Since
should be telling me about your stories instead of me telling you
yeah,
about
but I'm the
mine.
host. So you can't ask me a question. I'm joking. Maybe when you start your own podcast, Steve, I'll come on then.
Yeah, exactly.
But you should do your own podcast. I think you should. I mean, I don't know if you're thinking about that, but I mean, I think you've definitely got the creds and the kind of the ambience to
No,
be
I
a host.
appreciate that. I'm doing a bit of LinkedIn Live. I'm using LinkedIn Live to talk about the stuff we're doing in AI and stuff like that. Eventually, listen, I got so much spinning plates, Andrew.
No.
My wife says that I'm dangerous when I'm bored, so she keeps me busy. But I don't know if I can now pick up a podcast.
Well, I'm not going to go into that now on this episode, but I can talk to you offline if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I can give you some insights that I've got out of it.
Okay.
I mean, supposed to finish off then. I mean, so if people are listening to this episode, and they obviously thank you for being so open and sharing in the last 40 minutes on what you've done and what you've observed and what you've experienced. For people that are either on their journey today or they're in corporate and they're going, oh, there's a really interesting story here out of what Steve's done. What would you say to them? What would be your takeaways? What would be your kind of golden pearls of wisdom that you want to share with them?
Well, no one will ever be at an organization for the rest of their lives. When you're in there, you never think, oh, well, I'm going to leave. Everybody leaves one way or another. And so, what I would say is plan out that exit and plan out what that looks like and set goals for yourself. If you're not growing anymore, if you're miserable, you don't know how many people, Andrew, I've met that are completely miserable at their job, but they feel like they need that safety as a job. And I know that safety provides them comfort, but it's at the expense of happiness. So my suggestion is keep your options open, be curious, learn. I can tell you what really made a step change for me is I invested in myself. I went back to school, I learned new things, I met new people. I started getting involved in things that I was passionate about, and you start seeing the opportunities come through. I didn't know what road it had for me. I didn't know that HorizonX was going to take me down this road and doing this stuff. But you're smart enough and you got the history enough to know you see an opportunity when it comes. So just be ready to cross those bridges when they come. Be open, be curious. And if you're frustrated, actually don't get upset. That's good. Frustrating means you're not happy with what you're doing, which means you have to change. Now, if you're frustrated and say, oh, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, well, then you're making a decision. Then don't be frustrated anymore because you're actively making a decision not to do anything. And so, but if you are frustrated, use that frustration, use that energy to kind of do something better. Andrew, I was thinking about writing a book about it because I think you do go through a lot in your career. How do you prepare yourself? And there was a point in my career that I felt like it was kind of like a zombie years. Like, what the hell did I do during those years? And why wasn't I more active and hungry like I am now, years later? And it was just kind of like I was on autopilot. And so, what I would say is,
That's a huge wake up call, isn't it? That's kind of like a big revelation or reflection on that. Wow.
Yeah. And we all go through it. I could tell you, everybody's like, oh, the grass is greener on that side, the grass is greener. You got to see what you have and see how you take advantage of it and appreciate what you have. And I think it's been a long time since I've actually thought about it. Horizon X, it was a good project. I can't see myself like giving it up right now and going, even if I did get some good offers. I mean, I just got a good CEO job offer, I would say about 3 months ago, good pay, good stocks, good everything. And I just couldn't see myself saying, hey, yeah, I'll go ahead and drop everything I'm doing to go do that. And it's kind of funny because probably early on, I would have just jumped on that for the security side of it. Now I like
Yeah, but you see, you've got that thing about, like back to the Harvard thing. You've given, you added up aspiration, which is not a bad aspiration to be there, do AMP, right? When I was at Tesco, I wasn't quite at the level, but I was just one down from people who went to AMP. Really, before you became a CEO in Tesco, you had to go on AMP. Basically, that's what they did at Tesco's. And obviously, GE at Crotonville. You probably know GE's Crotonville place in New York. Yeah, so we had that thing. Yeah, it's similar like that, right? So how would your ex-Harvard alumni react if you did that? Yeah, when you'd actually made that massive commitment and, they'd supported you through it. I think that's something to think about, isn't it, when you go forward? I'm really glad you've done what you've done. It's fantastic. Really pleased for you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, it's not easy. I don't want anybody to think it's easy, but if you're determined, you always find a way. And I think people get scared because they want that perfect idea or the perfect product. I'm telling you, it doesn't exist. Jeff Bezos, what did Jeff Bezos start with? Selling books and shipping books that he went and bought at Barnes and Nobles to ship. And, now how much money is he making based on book sales? It's mostly cloud and everything else that he's doing. So it just goes to show you.
Well, there is another episode which I'm going to publish soon, which is actually about have people got enough? But that's another topic altogether. That could be another 2-hour conversation. Because obviously I think Jeff's maybe got quite a lot. And maybe he doesn't feel he's got enough. But anyway, that's another topic.
Well, from my perspective, he's got way more than enough.
Anyway, I know you've got a next session, so I really, really appreciate your time today, and thanks for popping on the show. That was Steve Suarez, CEO of HorizonX, live from Dubai, which is fantastic. You're looking healthy anyway. It's obviously sunny over there, and yeah. I'll ping you when I'm going to be over there, and we can catch up and have a cocktail on the beach and have a good chat.
We'll do that, Andrew. And thank you for your time, and thanks to your anybody here. And yeah, they can want to reach out to me. It's HorizonX, HorizonXC.com, or the Quantum Index, or any of the stuff I'm doing with MIT. Actually, I'll give you another snippet, Andrew, for your team. If they want to go on to the MIT X Pro website and use the HorizonX promo code, you can get a 10% off right away. And if they're doing better promotions, you can get whatever promotions that they have at that time. So go on to the MIT X Pro website and use HorizonX as a promo code, and you can get an instant benefit.
Okay, cool. Well, if you share those details, I can put it on that. That was the final thing I was going to say was how do they get hold of you and how do they find you? I know you're everywhere. You're like the Tai Lopez of quantum now. It's like, but
everywhere all at once. Yes, that's the beauty of LinkedIn. It lets everybody know where you are and what you're doing.
Well, hopefully not everything, but
not everything.
All right, have a lovely day. That's been Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast, and Mr. Steve Suarez. Have a wonderful day and see you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, ciao.